In the central hospital, the routine of doctors and nurses flowed as usual until something unexpected broke the normalcy. In the middle of the lobby, an improbable figure appeared, a chimpanzee. But that wasn't all. In her arms, pressed tightly against her chest, was a human baby, no more than 3 months old. The medical staff, paralyzed, didn't know what to do. But Anna, a nurse known for her courage, couldn't take her eyes off the chimpanzee. The chimpanzee, wet and visibly exhausted, echoed in her mind. She approached slowly. Anna could see that the baby was injured. Who is this baby? How did he end up in a chimpanzee's arms? With her eyes fixed on the baby, Anna realized that something much bigger was happening. With a careful gesture, she moved closer to the chimpanzee, who was still holding the baby firmly, but without aggression. "It's okay. You're safe here," Anna whispered, her voice low and calm, trying to convey trust. But the chimpanzee, apparently exhausted, didn't move. Anna slowly extended her hands, and in a moment of absolute silence, the chimpanzee reluctantly let go of the baby into the nurse's arms. As soon as the baby was in her arms, Anna realized the gravity of the situation. The small child had injuries as if he had been in an accident. Her heart pounded. "Let's go. We need to take him now," Anna shouted to the medical team. The chimpanzee, now without the baby in her arms, didn't move from her spot. Anna, while following the doctors with the baby in her arms, just looked back at Carlos, the security head. This chimpanzee, she saved this baby. The medical team was busy trying to save the child. But Anna couldn't take her eyes off the chimpanzee, who remained seated, her gaze fixed on what was happening in the emergency room. Carlos had already called the local police to investigate the case. Anna, however, couldn't take her eyes off the chimpanzee. When the police arrived, they hesitated upon seeing the chimpanzee. But Anna, now more confident that the animal wasn't a threat, explained the situation. She brought the baby. "It's clear he was in an accident, but we need to find out where he came from." The chimpanzee, as if understanding the seriousness of the situation, let out a small grunt and slowly got up. "Do you think she can show us where she came from?" Carlos suggested, uncertain. But with each passing minute, it seemed like the chimpanzee knew more than everyone there. A policeman nodded, and in a gesture of trust, Anna approached the chimpanzee, who began walking toward the hospital exit, looking back as if she wanted them to follow. The rain had eased slightly, and the group followed the chimpanzee through the streets of Kala until they reached a deserted road that led into the forest. The path was dark and muddy, and everyone was tense. At the edge of the road, partially covered by mud and leaves, was an overturned car. The police lights illuminated the scene, revealing the horror of the accident. Inside the car were the bodies of a man and a woman, apparently the baby's parents, lying lifeless. But the baby, somehow, had survived. The chimpanzee stared at the scene for a few seconds before turning to the group. The policemen were stunned. She saved the baby," one of the officers murmured, incredulous. Anna, her heart heavy, slowly approached the chimpanzee. The mystery deepened. How did she know she needed to rescue the baby? And even more intriguing, how did she know to take him to the hospital? As the rain began to fall again, everyone there knew there was much more to this story than a simple accident. At the hospital, the baby was finally in safe hands, receiving intensive care. The chimpanzee, exhausted and clearly shaken, refused to leave the area. Carlos approached, trying to suggest they remove the chimpanzee, but Anna interrupted him. "Wait, there's more to this. She doesn't want to hurt anyone. She just wants to stay near the baby." The silence was broken by the arrival of Dr. Menezes, a primate specialist who had been urgently called to deal with this unusual situation. He analyzed the chimpanzee for a few minutes. Dr. Menezes nodded. "From what I'm seeing, she's protecting the child as if he were hers. It's rare, but it can happen. The question is, what did she witness in that accident?" The chimpanzee suddenly let out a low grunt, interrupting the conversation. "She saw something important," he continued, without taking his eyes off the chimpanzee. "And somehow she believed her only choice was to save this child." Anna moved closer, feeling an emotional connection growing with the situation. "So she's not going to leave the baby, is she?" Dr. Menezes smiled slightly, still with his hand extended. Not anytime soon. Anna began to realize that the unexpected relationship between the chimpanzee and the baby was much deeper than she could have imagined. After the incident at the hospital and the baby's rescue, Anna couldn't stop thinking about the unexpected relationship between the chimpanzee and the child. Dr. Menezes, now intrigued by the situation, began a deeper investigation into the animal's past. In a consultation with local authorities, Dr. Menezes discovered that this chimpanzee wasn't just any wild animal. Years ago, she had been rescued from illegal captivity, where she was forced to live with humans from a very young age. She was eventually released and taken to a forest reserve near the site of the car accident. Anna, upon hearing the story, widened her eyes. She was raised among humans, she murmured. Dr. Menezes nodded. That explains a lot. She isn't a regular chimpanzee. She must have developed a strong emotional connection with people during those years in captivity. But what shocked everyone was the location of the accident. The road where the car had overturned was very close to the forest reserve where the chimpanzee had been rehabilitated. The desperate cries of the baby in the midst of the accident may have triggered a maternal instinct in the chimpanzee, who, with her past of living among humans, recognized that sound as a call for help. News of the chimpanzee's heroic rescue quickly spread through the media, and the story deeply touched people. The chimpanzee, who had once been a victim of human cruelty, had now become the savior of a life. The headlines praised the animal's act, and public opinion was won over by her bravery. However, one question remained in the minds of Anna and Dr. Menezes. What would the future hold for the chimpanzee? Although she had adapted to the wildlife in the reserve, she now refused to go back. Her bond with the baby and humans seemed stronger than anyone had imagined. The baby, still fragile, slowly recovered in the intensive care unit. Anna, who closely followed the process, felt something that went beyond her role as a nurse, a deep, almost maternal connection with the child. Meanwhile, the chimpanzee began to show signs that her protective instinct was fading. She still stayed nearby, but her behavior had changed. Dr. Menezes observed carefully. She fulfilled her mission, he commented during one of his conversations with Anna. Now she knows the baby is safe. The baby had no family left. His parents had died in the tragic accident, and there were no records of close relatives. Anna, driven by an impulse that had been growing inside her for a long time, found herself unable to ignore the void this child left in her life, and even more, the space he seemed to fill. One quiet morning, Anna made a decision. I want to adopt him, she told Dr. Menezes, her voice firm, but with a slight tremble. He looked at her for a moment, sensing the truth in her words. Are you sure, Anna? He asked, not out of doubt, but wanting her to fully understand the weight of that choice. She didn't hesitate. He's already a part of me. I can't let this child go to an orphanage. Not after everything that's happened. Dr. Menezes smiled with a paternal kindness. You have a big heart, Anna, and this boy will be lucky to grow up with you. The adoption was finalized weeks later with the support of Dr. Menezes and local authorities. The baby, now with a new home, had a chance to start over. With the baby's recovery and safety secured, she began to distance herself, as if knowing her presence was no longer necessary. The day of her return to the forest reserve came with a mixture of joy and sadness. Anna watched the chimpanzee leave, feeling a deep gratitude for the animal who had risked everything to save a life. At the moment of farewell, Anna approached the chimpanzee one last time. The animal's eyes, which once reflected urgency, now conveyed calm and understanding. Thank you, Anna whispered, feeling the weight of what those few words represented. The chimpanzee didn't respond with dramatic gestures. She only looked at Anna and the baby in her arms, as if satisfied. As the vehicle carrying the chimpanzee disappeared down the road, Anna looked at her adopted son. There was a sense that everything, somehow, was exactly as it should be. The life she now had ahead of her was the result of an unexpected fate, a chain of events that involved sacrifice, courage, and above all, love.